My name is Dan Oak, and I'm a student at Athabasca University, currently taking the course Computer Science 308 Java for Programmers. And for my tutor mark exercise 3, I've had a few issues getting it working just correctly, especially with regard to after I simulate a power outage or a window malfunction. I originally had the events come back, but they weren't in the right order. They weren't respecting the original delays read in from the file. And then when I got that working, everything was working except for the Bell event, which was running in a separate thread because it used multi-threading. So that took some tweaking to get that to work as well. So now I think I have a product that's working pretty good. So let's do a run. And before I start, just so you know, the code associated with this, basically this tutor mark exercise had me modify existing code, although with the modifications you almost are rewriting the code. But it starts off with an event class. So this is an abstract class event and implements serializable. All my classes implement serializable, so that I can save the game state, or correction, not the game state, save the greenhouse control state to a file and then reread from that so I can save game state when the shutdown occurred. So the events class basically just has a start method, a ready method, and an action method, which is abstract and throws an exception, but this is meant to be overridden in anything that extends event, meaning any derived classes of event, which are essentially everything: the lights on, lights off, fan on, fan off, power out, malfunction, all that stuff. Controller class, and you'll notice that all these classes, by the way, they're all in TME3, they're all in this package. The controller class, maintains a list of the events, has an add event method which simply adds an event to the event list, and the main part of the controller class is the run method, which basically iterates through that list, or a copy of it. It checks if the event is ready, which, if you remember from the event class over here, just basically when we first made the event, we would have compared the current system time versus the event time. And if the current system time is greater than or equal to the event time, well, then it's ready. And then we would have start. But yeah, so we check if the event is ready. And some of this code in here has to do with the fact that I need to do different things with my Bell event than all my other events because of the multi-threading and how Bell runs in a separate thread. But basically I check if the event is the Bell event, if it's not the Bell event, correction, and if it's not the Bell event, for every other event I'm going to print out that event using its toString class. I don't do that for Bell, basically because of the multi-threading, and it would print over and over and over again. But we do it for everything else. If the event is not Bell, so again, if it's not a Bell event, or it is the Bell event, we typecast the event to greenhouse.bell. I have to do the greenhouse.bell because Bell is an inner class within greenhouse the way I have it set up right now. If the event is not the Bell event, meaning it's any other event, lights on, fan on, whatever, or it is the Bell event, but we call the isCompleted method, and this returns true. This is a method I've created in the Bell event, just letting me know if the bell was done ringing, because bells can ring numerous times in the thread. So if the thread is complete, if either of those are true, well, if it's the Bell event, I just print out complete, meaning it will only be true if this is true. But more importantly, that's just a debugging code I put in there, which I'm actually going to remove just to make it easy on us. Actually, but if we came in here, we're going to remove the event from the event list. So again, we're always going to remove an event from the event list after an event is ready. we're always going to remove it from the event list if it's anything that's not a Bell event. If it's a Bell event, as long as it's complete, we're going to remove it. Let me just make this bigger. Just realize how small this probably is. So we're going to remove it. And then we're going to perform the action. And if there's an exception that occurs in there, we're going to catch the exception, and we're going to call the shutdown method, passing in the message associated with the exception. So we're expecting this exception to happen occasionally, and call the shutdown method. When will the exception happen? Well, when the event in question is a window malfunction event or a power out event, events that we've created that simulate an issue, i.e. a power outage or a window malfunction. I have had to add this code along the way, reset event timings. That was the original thing I needed to add in order to allow me to, when I restored the system after a window malfunction or a power outage, it allowed the sequence to start back up again and respect the timings, the delays, as opposed to just all being output at once. So this is to reset event timings. In the greenhouse controls, I've made a lot of changes, and I'll go through those kind of as they come up during this run through of the code. But this is greenhouse controls, a lot of code in there. And then we've got all of our example files. These are just the simple text files that we read from, and they execute the event. So you'll see the way that any of these files are is you have event equals and whatever the event is. In this case, thermostat night, and then the time that they want to execute. So this needs to execute immediately with no delay, whereas the light on event executes 2 seconds after the program starts, and so forth. This executes 12 seconds. And then the power out event, which simulates a power failure, happens at 6.5 seconds, meaning I won't run any other events that come afterwards until I do a restore. So anyway, let's just do a run through. Actually, before we do a run through, we will look at example 3. We'll do a run through with example 3. So this is example 3. So in this notepad document, I've just copied the contents of examples 3 text file here so we can watch it as we go through. So first, let's compile our code. So we're going to compile all of the code in the TME3 package. So again, all of our code is in this TME3 package. And we can get rid of this for now. Just to give you an idea, this these are just error logs and file logs based on when I've ran the code. Just delete those for now. But everything is in a to-the-mark exercise 3 package. So we're gonna compile all of the classes, all of the .java files. So not all of our Java files all at once. And now we're going to run the greenhouse controls. I'm running from the directory 1 back, so I could obviously just go into the TME3 package, go forward 1 directory in my command prompt here, and then just run greenhouse controls directly without this requirement here. Similarly, access, and that similarly I could lose this in my file name, but I'm just doing it this way for now, I guess. So this will run Oh, let's just get the timer going. So I should have got the timer going from the start so you could have seen, but let's just see what was happening anyway. So I just went through example 3.text, which is this example, and what happened? Well, immediately upon, some of this is, by the way, troubleshooting code. My absolute path, looking for file, this, absolute path, this, exits, does it exist? True. This is all troubleshooting code, which I'll delete. Really, the code that is of concern is it would normally start off system restarting, restarting system and reading events from file, whatever the file is. In this case, example 3.txt, it's a text file. And then the events of note are the thermostat on night setting. That happens immediately. So if I would add the timer over here, you would have seen that that happens as soon as the program starts. Then 2 seconds later, light is on, then light is off, then greenhouse water is on, fans off, greenhouse water's off, then bell ring. But let's start doing that. So as I showed you in the controller class, as these events execute, they get removed. So if the event is ready, we, for all events except for the bell event, unless the bell event is completed, but the bell event, this will only get removed if it's completed. Otherwise, all other events will get removed. They get removed off the list before we perform the action. So, what does that mean? Well, it means, quite simply, that as these events triggered, they were being removed. So thermostat. So I'm going to remove these over here. Thermostat equals, or event equals thermostat at night, time equals 0. That would have got removed. Light on, that would have got removed. Light off at 4 seconds, that would have got removed. Greenhouse water is on at 6 seconds, that would have got removed. Fan on, and then fan off. That would have got removed. Fan on at 7 seconds, fan off at 8 seconds, got removed. Greenhouse water is off at 10 seconds, so that would have got removed. Now the bell rings should have happened at 9 seconds. The first bell ring should have happened at 9 seconds. So I'm already noticing a little issue with, and this issue wasn't here before, so this is based off of something I did to change. But I'll just quickly let you know, the bell should ring at 9 seconds, 2 seconds later at 11 seconds, 2 seconds later at 13 seconds, 2 seconds later at 15 seconds, and then the final ring should be at 17 seconds. So there seems to be a little issue here in the sense that greenhouse water is off happened first before the bell rang. And greenhouse water is off is at 10 seconds. The bell ring, first one should happen at 9 seconds. But for now, we're still just going to remove. This would have got removed off the list. Bell events don't get removed off the list. However, this ring already happens right here, the first ring. And then thermostat on day setting, that happens at 12 seconds. Again, which is happening before bell rings, the second bell ring should have been at 11 seconds. So again, the order is a little off there. Then window malfunction triggered, that would have triggered at 15 seconds. And this bell ring should have happened first. Not this one, and I'll explain why in a second, even though they happen technically at the exact same time. The 13-second bell ring still ends up happening. But like all the other things where the bell seems to be behind a little bit, because it is in a separate thread, the window malfunction happens at 15 seconds and then gets removed. So here it happens. Window malfunction event triggered, error, window malfunction, emergency shutdown, blah, blah, blah. Then bell rings 3 to 5. Then the third bell rings. So this gets removed. Then the third bell rings. and then bell was interrupted. That's just a troubleshooting code to let me know we stopped any other bells from ringing. Basically, the bell interrupted. This line of code is what prevents this bell from ringing, even though this bell could ring because they're happening at the exact same time. I didn't want that last ring to happen because of the fact that in my mind it shouldn't, because as soon as the shutdown happens, nothing else should be executing afterwards, even though they theoretically possibly ran at the exact same time. I didn't want anything else to run afterwards, which is I think why I'm getting this little timing issue. But for now, let's just go on. The next rings that we should have when I restore the system, I should get the 4th out of 5th bell ring, which hasn't happened yet, which is this 15, and the last bell ring at 17 seconds, and then the program should terminate. Now, when we do the system restore, this won't happen until 15 seconds, because that's how I set up the restore. So let's just try that. So this will cause the restore to happen, and I'll get the timer ready and going as that happens. So restore, start the timer. So when this is approximately 15 seconds, we should see the 4th out of 5th bell ring, and then 2 seconds later the 17th bell. So right about, yeah, and then terminate about 3 seconds after. So terminating at 20 seconds, and then the program's over. So hard for me to click this at the same time, but this would have happened roughly at 15 seconds, 17 seconds, and 20 seconds. You can replay the video to see how close that was and how much I was fiddling with starting this timer. But that's what happens. After you do the restore, system restored from dump.out file, fix applied, window repaired, resuming greenhouse controls, and then we do any events that hadn't happened yet. In this case, just the 2 bell rings that needed still to happen. And now this can get removed. And then terminating event, which just shuts down the program. And all of our events are gone. So there was, as we said, just a couple issues with timings. And we can show that again, but we'll restart and just do it again, and you'll see what I mean by, again, the order is slightly off in the sense that the first bell should be happening at 9 seconds. So the first bell should be happening at 9 seconds, then 11, then 13, then 15, and then 17. However, water off happens before the first bell. Thermostat day happens before the second bell, even though this is at 12 seconds and this is 11 seconds. So we'll watch that again and then see if we can't fix that. I'm going to restart this. Okay, so we'll have to watch the video and see how close those timings are to what they're supposed to be. But again, this would have happened theoretically instantly. Then this would have happened at 2 seconds. This would have happened at 4 seconds. This would have happened water on at 6 seconds. Then fans on at 7 seconds. Fans off at 8 seconds. So on, off. And then here's again where the order's a little off. Greenhouse water is off, and then the first bell ring. Well, again, this is at 10 seconds. This is at 9. This should have happened first. But again, that happened. And then first bell ring, happened. Thermostat on day setting happened at 12 seconds. And then the second bell ring. So again, the timing's a little off. And then finally, this would have happened 13 seconds. And then finally, the window malfunction happened at 15 seconds, followed by the third bell ring at 13 seconds. So window malfunction, third bell ring. And then we don't do this one. And then again, if we restore, approximately at 15 seconds, we should see the first bell ring, and 2 seconds later the next one. And so we see it only at 11 seconds, and then 2 seconds later. And so then this happens at 20 seconds. So there seems to be a little bit of a timing thing, but again, it is a separate thread. It's not perfect, but as you can see, both bells rang, and then the terminate event happened. So again, for the most part, it's working, but it's just I'm trading one error for the other. But what happened to cause that is in my greenhouse control. Let's take a look. Just 1 second. You know what? I'll take a quick look. I'm going to take a quick pause and I'll be right back.